Okay, so this is the final part for assignment 2. This would be an example of what a sample lesson plan could look like. And one of the things that I did use, I took a project that I had to do for my doctorate and I tried to tailor it and make it look like what I'm expecting from you guys. And I will say that I used a template that was shared with us for the University of Memphis, where we used the Morrison and Lowther text. So I'm going to share the template with you guys. You guys can take it and tweak it and make it fit our or my expectations, but you don't have to actually use the template. The template does include some tables. For me, when you look at a lesson plan, it starts to get very lengthy if you don't utilize some tables, but I'm not saying you have to. It's just something that we did to try to streamline the process. So one of the things that you have to make sure that you have on our assignments, just make sure you always have a title page. You don't have to have an abstract, but I do expect a running head. Make sure it's formatted correctly. Make sure you have a title. Make sure you have your name on it. Make sure you have the course number, when you took it, and typically you'll put the instructor's name as well, but this time, since I am the instructor, I didn't put that on here. So taking the template, one of the things that the template does is it has you just go through and list what the lesson title is, the content area, the grade level, the time required, and the lesson summary. So for this lesson, students will determine which blood types occur in their classroom and decide which blood types could be donated to whom. Now within the process, the students will be working with Excel spreadsheets. They'll be creating tables, data tables to go with the information, but the overall lesson, what we were trying to do, this was a science lesson, was getting students to understand blood types and multiple alleles. So the template does include a table for the objectives on the left side. It has the standards on the right side. So notice that there are Arkansas curriculum standards for 8th grade earth science or life science, sorry, and it lists the strands and what frameworks go with this specific objective. And then if you continue down, only pick a couple. You don't need to list 15 or 20 for each of the different types, because remember, you need a content area standard from the state, you need the NET standards, you need the Arkansas Library Media Framework standards, you need national standards, which I think I forgot in mine. Yes, I did not find the NSTA standards, but I needed to if I want full credit on the rubric. But also don't forget the AASL standards for learning. And right now I know that AASL has just come out with a new set of standards. If you want to use the ones that were published, I believe in 2012, that's fine. Starting this next fall, we'll start with the newest standards because they're not totally published yet. If you've got a new text, you are welcome to do that, but if you still have the old Empowering Learners text from one of your other classes, that would be where you could find the original standards. But notice that there are more than just one or two objectives. The first one and the second one are about the science of the lesson. The next couple are about the computer tools. So don't forget to list all of the objectives, not just the ones that you'll use at the computer. The next part down includes the materials that would be needed for this lesson plan. Then the next is a table with the computer functions, what the computer applications will be. So there will be an Excel spreadsheet, Excel pie charts, and then what type of data manipulation will occur. The next part down, you need to specify the problem. So make sure it is a real-world problem applicable to your students. If you think about 8th graders, 9th graders, they're just getting ready to learn how to drive. So the question that came up, what would you do if you and your classmate were in a car wreck? Your classmate needed a blood transfusion. Would you be able to donate your blood to him or her? Would she need someone else to be the donor? So that's the question we're going to try to answer. So the students will be put in pairs throughout the project, and at the end they'll need to be able to answer that question. If they were in that car wreck, which one could donate to whom? So somewhere within your lesson plan you need to talk about the research, what the students are going to be finding out or gathering, and then the analysis. How are they going to analyze whatever it is that they find out? Now you may be doing a research project, so yours is going to sound differently than a group that is being blood typed by a local physician and they find out what their different blood types are. You need to have a plan for your results presentation, and this one's a very simple one. The students in pairs at the end are going to display a completed pie graph with the percentages of the class blood types to the class. Everyone should look exactly the same if they do that part correctly, but then in pairs they're also going to explain whether they could donate blood to their partner. Their computer activities. So notice for this one there is a column for the teacher, there's a column for the librarian, and a column for the student. And not all of these activities will take place directly at a computer for all of the students, and you'll notice in a little bit in the rotation plan. But at the beginning, the teacher is the one who needs to instruct on multiple alleles to determine the 3 genotypes, the 6 phenotypes that occur in blood. The librarian at that point in time will be monitoring students and giving instruction as needed to individuals. So that's just one of those times when you are team teaching, you're the librarian. You may not be standing up in front instructing, but you still need to be a part of the lesson. Don't go over and sit down and start cataloging books. And then the students have their own. They'll have their blood type determined by using a blood testing kit and a local physician. The students will enter the data in their class table written on the whiteboard. So at that point in time, the students don't even need a computer. Then the next part, this is where the librarian comes into play, and they are the one teaching. They're modeling the creation of a spreadsheet using Microsoft Excel on a smartboard. At that point in time, the teacher would be the one monitoring the students at the computers and tables and giving instruction to those individual pairs. Then over here it tells you what the students will be doing. So I just found it was easier to create that table to tell what was going on. Now on the next day, Activity 2, this is when there's going to be the creation of a pie chart to show the percentages for the blood types. So this time, the very beginning, the librarian is the one who is teaching. They're going to model or demonstrate how to use the data to create a pie chart in Excel on the smartboard. At that point in time, the teacher will be monitoring whole class questions, giving individual assistance as needed. That's one of those times where proximity, if you see a student not paying attention, I would expect the teacher to be the one monitoring while I'm still doing the instruction as the librarian. But that way you've got 2 people there vested in it. The teacher should not go off and run copy somewhere else or go get a cup of coffee. That's one of the hardest things about collaborating and team teaching. Everyone needs to be a part and involved the entire time. It's much easier for the students to understand what's going on and for classroom management to occur if both people are vested. And then at that point in time, the students will be checking their calculations and they'll have their think sheet. They'll get in groups of 4, 2 pairs each to double check each other. Then the next part, the students are the ones that are leading. They're the ones who have 15 minutes to create their pie chart while the other group is doing that checking of the calculations. So at the end, the librarian could be involved, and I would recommend they be a part of the audience, but they don't have to be. So I'd actually left this part blank. But this is when the assessment comes into play. The teacher will be utilizing a rubric to assess the students, and hopefully they'll be able to facilitate a discussion on the possible reasons for percentage discrepancies that occur within the blood types in the class. So, and here's the part of what the students are doing. Supporting activities. I just kind of broke down specifically activity 1. The students are calculating percentages using their think sheet, and I did include that think sheet in Appendix A. Activity 2, this is when the students are in pairs analyzing the data from their class and comparing it to international percentages. They are not on a computer at that point in time, but it allows for a rotation plan. So you can read through the rotation plan. This sample lesson will be posted within your area so you can see, just kind of how to set things up. There is a rubric that the teacher would use to assess the overall project. And then finally, make sure you have references. You're using standards that you didn't come up with on your own. So go back and reference those. If you use any outside resources, make sure you also include those as well. So I included the Chapter 11 text from the textbook that the students would be using, the biology textbook, and also on my think sheet we included blood type facts from bloodbook.com. So if you keep scrolling down, Appendix A, here is Activity 1 part of the think sheet, and it scrolls down. Then Activity 2, pretty much we just had put together a packet, so it was all stapled together. And then finally here is the chart that the students would put down all of their student names within their class. For this class there happened to be 24 students, and then put tallies in or check marks in of which blood type each student had. So I'll go ahead and load. I probably won't put it in this area, but I will load in our folder for this week, Module 4, I believe it is, the sample lesson plan that I just shared with you. I'll also share that job aid, that one-page sheet that I shared in the second part of the screencast. But the final thing that I would definitely recommend that you do, it's always best to look at the rubric that will be used for your assessment. So if here is the assignments, if you go down to the assignment area 2, you can click on it even if you're not ready yet to submit your project. But if you'll scroll down just a little bit, you'll see that this assignment is worth 40 points. If you'll click on the rubric, you'll be able to see all of the things over here on the left side that you need to include. So you need national standards, and like I said in the sample one I just shared with you guys, I forgot the NSTA standards. So I would get a 0 on that one for those points just because I forgot them. State standards, or if we were still using Common Core, but for us now everything is just a state standard, so I was using those 8th grade science standards. Don't forget our state library media curriculum standards or framework, standards for 21st century learners, and the NETS standards. So honestly, I think, that would be our AASL standards. So I did include all of the rest of those. So hopefully they were sufficient and I would get a 5 on those. There needs to be a lesson example. You need to spell out what would take place during your lesson. You need your grammar, your format, your spelling, and your syntax, just based on how many mistakes you have, and then formatting. Make sure that you've included all parts, 10 parts of the NteQ lesson plan model. So it's a 40-point assignment. Hopefully it's one where you will see how to truly integrate technology into a student-centered lesson. Make sure you have that real-world problem, all of those other aspects that you need to incorporate technology efficiently and effectively, where the technology is being used as a tool, not the teacher.